I went fishing today, so I'm tired. We may not
I
go
seen
long.
that fish.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Here we go.
All righty.
Lunch Money Lambert, Jeff Malott. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Yeah. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Hey. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation, where we talk about fishing and competition. It's your boy Ox Pippin, aka Ox Fishing. Don't come over here tripping. Hey, hope you enjoy the show. Jeff Malott, Lunch Money Lambert, Lego. Hey, welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Hey, welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to KBN Live. I've got like a guest pulling triple duty tonight with us. He's been on the show many times, but we've got him on for something a little bit different tonight. Steve Owens, what's up, man? Welcome to back to KBN Live.
Man, I appreciate you guys. And yeah, like you said, I've been on here quite a few times, but every time is something different, and I enjoy it every time. So thank you guys.
Yeah, we got you on here. Number one, Steve is tournament director extraordinaire, but he wouldn't be in this thing. He wouldn't even be directing tournaments if he wasn't a kayak fisherman first. And my man pulled off a win down at Seminole in the Georgia Bass Nation event. So we're here about that. We've got the Bassmaster Kayak Series Championship, aka Bassmaster Kayak Classic, coming up on Fork. We'll talk about that a little bit, and then just get Steve's feelings about how things have gone so far with the Havasu opening and the different Bass Nation series. So it's going to be a three for you. You got to carry me tonight, Steve. Can you do it?
I can do it, man. I've got these childbearing hips for a reason.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, man. Ryan may pull into his driveway before we're done and jump on for a minute. Who knows? But if not, we'll be just fine. We'll be
yeah, we're good, man. We know how to talk. We're good.
We know how to talk. Yeah, man. But yeah, first of all, congrats on winning on Seminole. I know that probably felt good as an angler to be competing and get a dub like that, right?
It did. Like this year, and we'll get into the story. This year was something different. I won last year, but our good buddy, Lambert and I started TVKA, Tennessee Valley Kayak Anglers, down here on Chickamauga, Gunnersville, and stuff like that, Nickajack. And the year that I won it was before this one was when I was leaving my job to do this full time. And Casey, my buddy Casey Smith here in Dayton, Tennessee, he grew up fishing Seminole a lot. And as just real quick backstory, one street over is a gentleman my wife works with. And for several years, I had been messaging his dad unknowingly, or I had been messaging his dad about Seminole stuff, where to stay, what to do, just basic stuff. And I actually was in this man's house last year fishing the lake he lives on, and we connected that we knew one another through that. That's the guy I've been messaging for several years on places to stay, June bug, speedworm. That's all you need to know on Seminole. and so last year when I won it, Casey and I had practiced for about a week down there. We just took a little vacation type thing. And last year was great, but this year, and we'll get into it, I just did something totally different. And luck. The word for the day is luck.
All right.
That's what this whole weekend was.
Well, first of all, you're a busy man. We were just talking before we went live about, your world tour after the Havasu opener and coming across the country. So did you get any kind of practice for this event, or was this a fishing history going with your gut kind of thing?
To surmise it quickly. So practice, I got down there on Thursday, went by Westside Bait and Tackle, which is a phenomenal cinder block, old timey grandpa tackle shop down there. I'm sure y'all all been down there with the Hobie that we had down there and everything. And spent $100 bill, and then came back to the room. Louis Delgado stayed with me, and got up Friday morning, and I had a phone call with Koza at Dugout. We had some work stuff going on, and I had to pull over to have the phone call because the cell signal down there is not good at all. And as we were doing work stuff, when I got done, it was later in the morning. And so I was like, man, my A1 spot I won the year before was kind of a super early morning bite. And then they didn't bite again till the evening. And so where I was at, he kind of made mention. He was like, well, I was on just the Chattahoochee River, just so you know, and there's a lot of current there. He said, man, it's pretty flooded out, and so I don't know. I was like, man, I'm just going to launch and see what I do. So I launched and I covered a ton of water, and probably had about 88 inches on a chatterbait. That's all I caught them on was a chatterbait, nonstop chatterbait. And I caught about a dozen fish. So I'm happy with that. If I could catch 88 inches, at least I could, just not skunk. And so I get back to the ramp, I load up, my motor goes out on me. And so I load up and I go down to the honey hole where I had won the year before. And just to give you for instance, out of the top 10 last year, this area that we fished, there were four to five people that cashed a check out of that area. So when I'm getting there, getting ready to launch, Brian Nelly comes up. And, he's like, of course, hey, fancy seeing you here, which he fished it last year. And so we talked a little bit, and he said he had caught 3 or 4 fish. And so he leaves, and I'll go ahead and launch, and I pedal out there, man-powered, mind you. And which, by the way, I don't know what we've done to the sport, but I do not like fishing without a motor. So I kick out, and I've got a long way to go to my area. I say my area, but it's just what Casey and I discovered. And I fished for about 2.5, 3 hours, and I can't even tell you that I faked a bite. I did not get a sniff of anything. So I go back to the ramp, load up, go to the house, and that was it. That was my practice. I caught them in that one area, but the area I fished, I would say I probably covered 4.5, 5 miles to catch. Now like I said, I caught about a dozen fish, but they were, forever and away apart. And
was that including that one, Steve? You posted a video where you thought you had a catfish and didn't know what you were doing.
That's on tournament day.
That's on tournament day. Okay.
Proper. Yeah. And so we go back to the house, me and Lewis are staying together, and we've got some buddies all on the road. So we go on Fins and Feathers, and we eat, and we've got, Jamie Hargrove. And so for me, in my mind, since I didn't catch anything, 88 inches on Seminole, you're not going to, that's nothing. That's nothing. And so in my mind, I'm like, I'm just going to go fish the same area because, number one, Brian said he caught fish. I know Josh Counts, Dwayne Dwyer, Brandon Hewlett, Joshua Deal. They all fished kind of that same area, so to speak. And so I was like, I didn't even get a sniff. I'm not going to show up on tournament day and usurp their fish, so to speak. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to my original ramp, and I'm just going to fish. I'm just going to cover water. Seminole's beautiful. There's eagles everywhere. There's all the birds migrating. I'm just going to go enjoy the day. And so we're eating dinner on Friday evening, and then we're just all cutting up, carrying on. And the MLF college and high school was there as well. And so those dudes, like we joke about kayakers, those dudes don't know how to pre-fish. They throw every hook set they can in every fish. And so I was in West Side Bait and Tackle listening to these guys, and they were all buying different baits than they had practiced with all week long because they weren't catching anything. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to fish. And so we're eating dinner that night, just listening to everybody carry on about their stories and everything. And nobody was really on anything. And so I knew the tournament was just going to be junk fishing 101. But like I had mentioned, since Brian and a few of the other guys had caught fish, I wasn't going to go there. So I just went back to where I had practiced. And if you want me to lead into that story?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a instincts with tournament fishing, making the right call. You call it luck when we first started here, but when you win, everything does have to line up right. So I'm sure that story's going to kind of take us there, right?
You're right. And so I get up that morning, and just to kind of segue just a little bit, I get up that morning and we're getting ready. We leave the house, and I've got about an hour drive to where I'm going, because that's how it works. You can book a place, and you're going to actually fish your tournament way away from where you book. And so I'm just listening to my music, and I'm listening to my praise and worship, and I'm praying for my family, my friends, the people in the event, and everything. And we got a good friend, Patrick Mize, here in Tennessee, who had a real life episode on an icy ramp recently. And when he got done, he was just like, Lord, whatever happens today, I'm just going to fish and give you the glory, and whatever I win, I'm going to donate it the whole 9 yards. And he did. He actually did end up winning that tournament. And so what was just really impressed on my heart that day was I'm not on anything. I'm not going to try to ask God to let me win this tournament over you or anyone else. And so I was just kind of like, God, just show me you today. And so I launch and I get to the ramp, and you all know Seminole. It's dark everywhere you go. So I'm trying to rig. I'm listening to all the noises. There's birds everywhere, raccoons scurrying around, gators growling, the whole 9 yards. And as I get ready to launch, there's still nobody where I am. And I'm like, well, this is going to suck, because all of these hammers in this tournament, nobody is where I am. So I'm like, there can't be any fish here, and as I told you, I had to cover a ton of water to even catch a limit. And then, like I told you, I caught a dozen. I caught 2 18 3/4 and 4 17s, and everything else were like 12, 13 inches. So,
Right.
And so I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to fish. And so I launch, and I'm kicking around, and I'm just like, I see a Mountain Dew bottle floating, and a styrofoam cup floating. So I do the whole river karma. I'm scooping those up, and I throw them in the back of my hatch, and I kick around, and there's just a couple of bait fish flickering. The sun's just coming up, and I'm literally just stopping. And the guy's name is Stephen McWhirter, Bob. It's a McWhirter like AJ, but with an I. He's phenomenal. And so I see that little swirl, and I flip my chatterbait in there. And my buddy Curtis Perez here in Tennessee, Mean Mouth Custom Rods. I've owned every chatterbait rod that you can think of, from NRX, GLX, Dobbins, Pure Fishing, Fenwick. Now, our buddy Brandon Palmer makes Little Miami rods. Those are phenomenal. But Curtis made me my own Alabama rod. And hands down, other than being an Alabama rod, it's legit. It's the best chatterbait rod I have found.
Before we go any further, give me some specs on it. Composite, fiberglass. What do we got going there?
7.3 fiberglass. It's straight. It's not, and it's got a good tip to it. I would almost feel like it's a medium heavy mag flipping stick, so to speak. But what I found was, for me, because the Dobbins Champion that Matthew Scotts told me about was phenomenal, but the sensitivity is not there. He uses Bushido blanks, and they're great. And so anyway, I'm flipping around, and then I see that swirl, and I catch a 13.5, and that's all I wanted, was to not skunk. That was it. And so I get everything ready, and there's some boats coming through, and this is where luck comes in. To the left is where I caught 3 fish that next morning. I had a monster, probably an 8-pounder, follow my lipless to the kayak in this one little cut. Well, the boat was cutting through there, so I naturally was pushed over this way. So that's where I caught the small one, and there was a couple of more swirls, and I flipped in there, nothing, threw back in there, and it, bam, loaded up. And it was a catfish. And in my mind, I can tell what a catfish. I grew up on nickeljack. That's all we ever caught was catfish. So I feel this fish, and I feel like it's swirling. So I'm just wrenching it down so it can't get wrapped in my line. And I've got a broken twig landing net, the broken hockey sticks. They're phenomenal nets. And I grabbed it, and I went to net that catfish, and I saw it. and I was like, whoa. And it jumped one time, dropped straight in. And I think the reason I landed that fish was because I did not know it was a bass. If that would have been a bass in my brain, I would have yoked somehow and ruined it. And so I landed it, did my little video. I didn't get another bite for almost 2 hours. And so, but now within that 2 hours, what I found was the carp killing boats, the bow and arrow guys, they had been there, and they deserve to do whatever they want to do too. But the area was just decimated. The grass was ripped up, everything was floating, and you could just tell. And so, I had my graphs on. Didn't have a motor again, but I had my graphs on just so I could tell how deep I was, and I was fishing in like 56-degree water. And so, I start seeing the crappies backs just chasing bait. And so I literally stopped. I was like, Lord, I've got big bass for the tournament in my brain, and I haven't skunked. So I start throwing my jerk bait, and my lip was trying to catch some crappie for probably about 30, 45 minutes. And that didn't happen. And so, something hit me. It was just like, we do what we do for a reason. I feel kind of bad if I'm just out there phoning it in and everybody else is fighting hard to win. And so I was like, you know what? Just kick it and get it. It sounds cheesy, but I was like, I don't have a motor. I'm on Chattahoochee. So what I was doing on the Chattahoochee River, I was kicking up it and finding every little cut in I could, no matter what side it was on. And it might only be the size of your desk, or it might have been the size of half of your house. Every cut in I could find, I would get in out of the current, and just try to fish it. And so that's what I started doing. And as luck would have it, I just progressed further and further and further. And I found an area that had on my Garmin map, it had one particular marking on it that looked like what you would think was a spring. Now I'm in between any of the areas that I even have ever fished, ever known. I don't judge fish for our own tournament, so I don't know where you fish or anyone else does. And so I'm just sitting here. It's like, man, I've never seen that on a map, because I fished Seminole a ton. Like I fished it a lot. I've cashed 2 checks in Hobies, cashed other checks in tournaments. I love Seminole. It's my favorite place in the country. And so in my mind, and it takes me almost 50 minutes to get to this little impression on the map. And so I'm just sitting there, with myself. I'm doing 2.5 miles an hour against that current. And we all fish out of all of our brands, but that Hobie drive did it for me. It got me to where I needed to be. And I get to that area, and it settles down, and I start casting, chucking and winding, and it sets up like the best place I like fishing on Seminole, that I'm not going to name because everybody goes to it when you do that. And I get in there, and I catch 2 pickerel on my chatterbait. I'm like, no problem. At least there's life here. So I stop, and I move over to the side, and I start flipping my Cinco, because I'm up against the reeds, and I start scaring all of these fish. Well, my buddy John came over, John Ferguson, that helped start TVKA with us. He cleaned a reel for me. And as I was spooking these fish, I realized, you're too close. Like Jeff, I was pissed off at the fish I saw take off. And I'm sitting there thinking, you can't get those fish back. So I moved off. And like when you fish for smallmouth, you're typically throwing a 45-degree angle at a bluff wall kind of thing. That's what I started doing. And John cleaned that reel for me. And I'm using 15-pound Seaguar fluorocarbon. And I'm flipping from here probably 25 feet without those fish seeing me. And I catch a short. I catch another short. So I'm like, I know where they're at now. They're up against the reeds. And so I'm like, you just need to quit. Go. Your gut told you to go to that little spot on your map. So I go there, and I settle down. I just stop for a moment, get everything situated. And I talked about what I did. I said, God, just let me show you. So me and Koza have been studying a book by a man with the last name Akron, about heaven and everything. So I've got that book, the audio book, in my ear, and I listened to it for 6.5 hours that day. So what that did for me was I was thinking about fishing, but I'm paying attention to what this gentleman is explaining to me. And so I'm not thinking about, such and such Brian Nelly just passed me for big bass. I'm just fishing my area. I'm looking for high percentage points, and I'm flipping in, and I make it to the little 10-foot depression. Everybody that knows Seminole knows that you look for depressions. That's where they're at. They don't like current. They don't like to fight. They don't like to move. They get in those depressions, and so I get in there. And Jeff, I promise you, I tied on. They had quit eating the Z-Man Golden Shiner. I like when we all started first fishing, me and Lambert and everybody, when the jackhammer came popular, we used a fluke as a trailer because it does a lot of this instead of just this.
Right.
And so that's what I've used mostly. Well, Hog Farmer's a good friend of ours. They're right up the street from me. So Galen, as I'm heading down, he gave me their new Stroll Shad, which is a scoping bait. But he told me, he said, you need to try this as your chatterbait trailer because he knows I love a chatterbait. And it does. It gives you that eel-like movement, and it's about half an inch longer. The 5.5 inch for me is too much because it's a fat spunk shad on that bait. So the Stroll Shad is more it's more slim, and that tail is so feather thin that you just get a ton of undulation out of it. And so that's what I had started throwing in practice, and I noticed it quickly. So that wasn't working. So I tied on a bruised green pumpkin with the Yamamoto Zeko shad and flipped it in. And I say this to say that the trailer did not matter whatsoever, because as soon as I flipped that chatterbait in, I started counting down. I got to 5 and I saw my line take off, and it was a 22 1/4 that broke the big bass tie. So now I've got 3 fish, and that's all I needed. I've won big bass because he's not catching a 23 incher. The way these college kids have just set the hook on every fish in the world, and so I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, you got 3 fish, you're good. And I find one more depression on my map, so I head off to it, and it's a long way. It's a long way, and it sucked. But I'm like, you know what, dude, you're catching fish. Just keep moving. And so I start thinking, why wouldn't I continue to push it and fight it? And I say this for people who want to leave after day one when they don't do well, but like you've done it, I've done it. What? but what my point is like, I know how to catch fish. I can't tell you how I catch them in a lot or why they're there, but like we've all like I've beaten. Lambert's a grand champion. Christine's a grand champion. Jody's a grand champion. Brian Nelly's a grand champion. We've beat all of these people. Jay Wallen's a champion, And I was like, don't just settle for your 3 fish. You've got a 23.5, 22 1/4, and a 13.5. Start fishing. And so I did. I buckled down and I started moving and covering. And I was getting tired of fighting that current because the best I could do was 2.8 kicking up that hooch, man. It was so rough. So I'm looking for cut-ins. And on Seminole, if you look at your imagery, you'll see these massive lakes, so to speak. But when you get to them, they're grown up. They're grown up, and you've got like maybe a kayak size area to fish.
That happens in La Crosse a lot. Same kind of deal.
Yeah, you can't really trust that.
Right.
So you have to do your own research. And so I look for 2 of those, and they're grown up. They're choked out. So any of you that fish Seminole anytime in the future, don't trust your maps. You got to put in the time to find these openings. And so this opening is not even on the map whatsoever. If you pull it up on Google Earth, it looks like you're going to build a tree house in it. There's nothing there. And so I'm just tired, and I find one more depression. I want to pull my butt in, and there's all kinds of debris there. So I throw that jackhammer in there, and the water ripples. And I was like, wait a minute. So it was just those little balls that grow off of the pads and stuff. And so I kick on in there, and that stuff just moves, and I find a little goat trail where the carp killers or the airboats or whatever opened up. and I squeeze through there, and it's just enough to get your kayak through. And it's probably about 1.5 feet deep. And now, if it weren't flooded, I don't know that we could have even gotten in there because we got a lot of rain. And so I'm just kicking in. I'm not bottoming out. I'm not anything. And so I start flipping in, and I catch a 14.5. So now I've got 4.
And what
So I
time
flip
is this
back
at
in
this
there.
point?
Huh?
What time is this at this point? We getting later in the day now?
Dude, yeah, I would say I still probably had about 5 hours to fish.
Okay.
I still had a good little while, and I don't keep up with limits very much. I don't watch the leaderboard much, and I can't even tell you what the fish I catch, how big they are. I just take a picture and upload them and move on. Don't have that much room up here, and so I flip back in, and one loads up, and I'm talking about, dude, there's resistance. This fish it's not coming in, and it snaps my line. Well, what had happened was I was using the owner screw lock hook on that Cinco, and as I retied, when I think what happened was my line had gotten in that owner screw lock, and it
Yeah.
snapped it. So I retied real quick, flipped back in there, had one take off with it, and it caught me off guard. Didn't get it, so I moved forward, and so I start seeing a bunch of bait just popping here and there. And I'm at about 3 foot, 3.5, 4 foot of water. And I flip in and I catch an 18 something. And I was just like, okay, no problem. Now I've got 4. And I was just like, and I start shaking. I'm literally sick to my stomach because I knew I had Brian beat on big bass.
You got something against Nelly? I've heard Nelly's name like 5 times. You were gunning for him.
Well, because he had me on big bass. And he's a grand champion. So I'm sitting there thinking, we got Josh Counts in this. And so, but I had like I had told you, when Brian had said he had caught a couple where we were at, I was like, I'm not even going to go there. But that was my main thing was I didn't have confidence in what I was doing enough to win. But I knew with a 23.5, you've got big bass most any places in the country. So when I got that 22.25, I was just sitting there thinking, man, please, and that was the thing, because, those guys are the real deal, and we don't get to do enough of this to measure yourself up against those type of anglers, but so when you do get a little bit of success against them, it helps you later on. And that's why I tell everyone, don't leave after day one, man, because you may be that person that catches that 26.25 and beats a person that caught 105 inches on day 2. And so, I get that one and I've got 4. And so I don't move very far at all. I catch a 17 something. I don't move very far at all. I catch like 4 or 5 more. I ended up catching 12 or 15. I want to, it was at least 12. And so I just keep flipping that stupid Cinco. I tried to throw something else. But it was the Cinco. That's just is absolutely what did it. And the other part of luck was I threw black, blue speck, black, blue laminate. I threw green pumpkin. I threw watermelon red. They hit tilapia magic. That was it. And I don't believe in that stuff, but I do now.
Now, how was that? How was that luck? Did you just happen to have them and you don't normally carry them, or what?
Literally, I bought them from like the dollar bin in NOE Expo 2 years ago. Yeah, and I've got a couple of packs in the garage, and I grabbed some for prizes, to be honest with you. And I looked, and I only had like 5 green pumpkin Cinco's left, and I was like, man, you need something. And I literally grabbed a pack of those and just threw them in my kayak. And so I fish around, and I catch a 16.75, and that's my limit. So then I messaged Sassy Dan, my next fish. I caught a 16.75, and we all are hypersensitive to duplicates. So I said, Daniel, I just caught a duplicate 16.75.
Don't need any lawsuits, Steve.
What you said, he said, you dumbass, you already got a 16.75. You might as well go ahead and bust 100. And I just started laughing. And as I'm leaving, I'm like, just go ahead and fish the way you just came in. I didn't even fish the other area. And so I flipped in that next cast after that text, bam, 18 something gets me 100 on the nose. I got 2 minutes left before time's out on tourney X standings, and I go ahead and submit them again to get 100 out there. Kind of a flex just a little bit because I was pumped at the time. I was like,
Yeah, man.
yes, and so I fished on around and I lost. I broke that one off, and it was a good one. It was a good one. And as we got 15 minutes left, and I need to leave early because I'm still tournament director. I got to go set up the awards and stuff. And I was like, you know what, man? No, you fish today. You're going to fish. And I don't care if they got to wait till 7 o'clock. You're going to finish this tournament. And Jeff, I found this one pad stem. I saw a wiggle, and I flipped that Cinco in. And I saw a mouth that must have been this big. It came up, and it got that pad stem, the whole lily pad in its mouth, and my bait. And I was just like, and so I counted just a second because it's got a big wad of salad in its mouth. And I hook into it, and the tail comes up out of the water. There was about this much fish come out of a foot of water. And of course, it came off. So I reset. I had to retie because it took my worm, and it's the last Cinco I have on the whole entire kayak. And I flip another area, and it happened again. I saw it flush. It sucked that pad in its mouth and my worm and hook, and I set it again, and I got it about 3 foot from the kayak, and it just came unpinned. But Bob, I was
what are we
just
guessing? Estimating 23 ishes, like same as your big bass, pushing that.
I think
that
it was.
bass?
I think they were bigger.
Really?
Like Marshall and them will cut up about it's as big as the back of my truck glass. But both of those fish, they were substantial. I
Okay.
think they were bigger than what I had landed. The one that I thought was a catfish, but Bob, I do peg. Even if I'm fishing a weightless Cinco, I like putting a peg on it just because no matter how you tie a knot, you're going to get snagged in that grass and you're going to think it's a bite and you're going to jerk it out. So I put a rubber peg over my knot anyway, just so that it helps it go through the grass. But I was throwing an 1/8 ounce just because it was super windy. We had a lot of wind. And so I put an 1/8 ounce on it just to get it casted out there.
There we go. We got a few questions. What was the water temp from Tim on YouTube?
So where I launched, if I could remember where I launched, I would tell you, but I don't. I find places on the map. I drop a pin and I go to them just because I'm a PD. I don't want to know the names of where Jeff and his grandpa fished or whatever. But when I launched, the water was 56, 59. I fished there for a long time, but the place where I ended up wrecking them, it was 63.
Okay.
63. That much difference.
Fishing with Gramps asked, what rod were you throwing that Cinco on?
I'm not going to remember the numbers, and you will because you throw blue bands, Grandpa or Gramps.
Sometimes he's Grandpa. No
yeah. Yeah. Well, we got Keith Martin. He stayed with us. That's the OG Grandpa right there.
Shout out to JT. Great work over there.
JT. It's an NRX heavy fast. That's what I threw this one on, and I was flipping it on 15-pound fluorocarbon. I throw the chatterbait on 17-pound Seaguar, Tatsu, or Invisex. But this was an NRX Plus. I typically throw it on the medium heavy extra fast. But since we were on Seminole and we know that they grow big heads, that's what I used.
What hook? I heard you say screw lock, owner screw lock. Is that right?
Owner screw lock. And I actually, that $100 bill I spent, it's the only bait that caught me fish, was the owner screw lock. The owner makes a screw lock for a literal Cinco, but this was the Zoe wire. The Zoe wire is a stronger hook, built for Superline, which is braid. And I used it because down there, I literally have seen fish in the jumps, and these old eyes saw that hook flex and straighten. So I used the Zoe wire owner screw lock.
Smart. Well done, man. 100 inches, really a blowout victory by the time it was over with. I mean, 7 1/4 inch win against a really, really strong field. Nothing but respect for those guys that you beat there, but well done. You've got some graphics here that you sent me. I'm going to throw them up, and you can comment on what we're looking at. How about that?
Yeah.
One. Here you go. This is from the winner circle right there.
Yeah, that's us at Big Gems.
And then I've got a couple pictures of the biggins. There's Steve's 23.5 giant.
If you'll notice, the identifier code is CPE, and then we've got DD sucks. That's Daniel Davis, just so you know.
And then Brian Nelly with another
yeah,
equally
I'll be honest,
impressive.
that deflated me when I had that 23.5, because I talked to the guys and nobody had really caught a lot. When Brian posted up that, I was like, man. So yeah, that I at least wanted something out of the day. So yeah.
And then here's our final standings. I shared that earlier, but your top 10. I mean, anytime you go top 10 and you can go 90 inches for your top 5, and then even pushing mid 80s all the way down to your top 10. I mean, it's just, Seminole's just like that. I mean, you could have easily had 90 inches down to 20th place if the day was right.
Yeah, we had 51 anglers. I think we had 21 20-inch bass.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah. Seminole is just one of those ones, man. It's one of those places, right?
Yeah, it is. And again, like I've mentioned, it's my favorite place in the country. The only regret I have was we fished after the Bassmaster Kissimmee, fished with Garrett Wade, where he finished 5th at, and he had been throwing his Cinco on 30-pound braid. I think if I would have thrown 30-pound on those 2 I lost, I wouldn't have lost them. But just to show how fishing is, if I hadn't have stopped to crappie fish for 30, 45 minutes, those fish may not have been where I needed them to be, Yeah.
Let me ask you this, man, because, from motor to putting those thighs to work this weekend, right? Did that play a factor in slowing you down at all, making you kind of stop at a few spots you might not have had you had the ability to hammer down? Did that factor in at all?
I think it did, because like I was going to the 2 depressions I told you about regardless. But what it did, I think it allowed me to see and spook those fish and realize that I needed to throw up against the pad up against the whatever that grass is that's this tall.
Yeah.
Reeds is what we'll call them.
Sure.
Yeah, if I had not have spooked them, if I would have motored, I would have spooked them well before, and I don't think it ever would have calculated. So, and then when I got where I was with the wind blowing like it was, when you've got that motor off the back of your kayak, even if you pull it all the way up out of the water, you're making your kayak that much longer, and it's less maneuverable, So like I almost took I love my Old Town Autopilot 136. I freaking love it. It's the most comfortable, sturdy kayak I've ever fished out of. And I was going to fish offshore because that was and offshore on Seminole can be 200 yards and you're not going to be over 5 foot of water. But the year before when I won it, and I don't even remember what I caught, but the year before when I won it, I had to go back in the gator hole to get away from the duck boat blast because I would get killed. But after the fact, I was in 9 or 10 foot of water for most of the day. And so I thought, you know what, that's where the bite's going to be. When you get it all, you practice from the house and you know what's going to be what. And so I was almost going to take that. But had I not had that 360 with those kick up fins, it would have been a lot harder. It would have been a different day. That's why I really feel like we pigeonhole ourselves to our vessel that we fish in anymore. If you've got a spot lock motor on the front or a Newport on the back or whatever, go find where you think the fish are. And if you don't need that freaking motor, leave that son of a buck in the truck. I did. Yeah. And you know what? I wasn't tired because I wasn't dragging 25 pounds of motor behind me, and it felt good. It really did. And as I mentioned, I had a graph on, but I didn't need the graph. I used the graph for my maps because I was fishing brand new water I'd never been to,
You could be like Jordan Marshall and just leave everything but the motor. No paddle, no pedal drive, just get stranded out there. You know what I mean?
hope on the buddy system. One year, Marshall beat Lambert for Angler of the Year in our grassroots on the last day, and he caught a 25-inch one-eyed bass that he had caught, Jody Queen had caught, one more angler in our club had caught, and I know of 2 boat fishermen that I have heard of catching a 25-inch one-eyed bass out of Sail Creek. And no, not a good fish has ever been caught out of Sail Creek again, so stay out of there. But Marshall, so we're coming back to the ramp that day, and we're there, and I pick up one of his reels, and he was like, "Try this bait out." Jeff, it was like a jug of gravel. That's what his rods and reels. That man, I don't understand. There's people like him and Drew and Russ that can just like Larry Bird roll out of bed and drop 12 threes without even stretching.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's how he be. Holy smokes! Look at this, Steve. Hang on a second. I bet you've been carrying the show, but we're gonna bring in for an assist here late.
Boy, I tell you what.
There's my friend.
Steve ain't run out of words. I'll give him that.
I told you he'd carry us. Ryan. I told you he'd carry us.
Man,
dude, this is the most excited I've been in forever.
No.
I'm proud of you, boy.
Appreciate you, my friend.
I contracted some sort of stomach virus or something at this volleyball tournament. I was laughing the whole way up here real nervously trying to hurry up and get to the house.
My God. Well, I'm glad you made it home safe.
Oh, boy.
We had 2 or 3 people in the comments saying they were commenting from the toilet, so you might as well should have.
Well, no, I couldn't go that far with it.
Should have just went live in there, KBBT style over there. So, Steve, I have one more question for you before we pivot over to Bassmaster. You already kind of mentioned this. Obviously, you started out as a kayak angler with Ryan. You guys are buddies, been buddies for a long time. You're an angler first, but you're also a TD for Bassmaster Kayak Series, Bass Nation, Tennessee, Georgia, all these things. How do you ride the line of being able to compete and stay out of the gray area of being a TD that still competes? And you already kind of said something about that with you don't judge the fish, you get other people doing it. Because as TDs, you don't want to just sit on the sidelines and never fish and fish tournaments. So how do you make that happen so the competitors are calm and cool and happy to see you fishing with them?
Well, it kind of starts something Ryan said a long time ago is like when people respect you and you don't ever want to hurt that. So some of the parameters I put in place is I don't judge the fish. But yes, I'm the one that builds the tournaments, and so I can see where you fish. And there are times when I have to investigate things where I do see your location. But other than that, it's I have to set a narrative of if you can't trust me to fish a $40 tournament and then turn around and fish a Bassmaster tournament, then not being any negative or a prick, don't fish. Just don't fish with us, because I'm not going to do that because
Right.
I left more money than I'll ever make in tournament directing to do this.
Right.
And so that's how I do it. And it's because I'm like Ryan always said, and Cord Dyer said this too, always be transparent. And that's what we've always done. When we screw up, we tell you, man, we messed up. Here's what we're going to do to fix it. And so that's it. And so like AJ struggles with that. He and I discussed, buddy.
Yeah.
I said, you better fish because, I can't say he's got more integrity than me because we both have a lot of integrity, but you can't question his integrity. He purposefully goes out of the way to stay out of the gray so that people don't accuse him. Me, I need people in my life and I love the friendships that I have, and God put me in this position to do this for a reason. And so I'm not going to sit by myself on the road. I'm going to hang out with y'all. I'm going to stay in a house with somebody else that's probably fishing. I'm going to stay in a house with somebody who may not fish anymore, but that's just it because I have integrity. And I know as soon as I'm a phony, or as soon as it's proven that I give somebody a launch or this, that, and the other, then I'm done, And the biggest thing in the world to me that I'm scared of is letting someone down or someone thinking I'm something that I'm not. And then that's why that's how I tiptoe that area. I showed up at a ramp one time and a guy said, "Oh, Just imagine a tournament director here. What, man? It's a lake. I mean, it's, count the 500 million launches across the country. I'm going to be at one, so.
Yeah, man. As a guy that's never run national tournaments, just local clubs and things like that, and still fished, I understand the scrutiny that sometimes comes with it, but I also respect the fact that you're still in the arena with the fellas and mixing it up and out there winning, cashing checks and winning tournaments. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm sensitive. Like I'm not going to go down to Lake Fork. Like I would fish one of Duke and them's tournaments down there. But like if it's a Bassmaster, I'm not going to fish it. But like AJ and I have conversed about, hey, I'm going to throw it down. Like I expect AJ to win Del Hollow Bassmaster coming up, because he deserves that. And there's anglers that have mentioned to him and myself, you shouldn't fish that, the perception or whatever. But I'll be honest with you, I think it's because they didn't want one of us to fish certain bodies of water,
Well, AJ very well could win, because AJ, before he stopped fishing tournaments, was one of those guys.
That's it. He won
was one of
Tennessee
those
Bass
guys.
on Del Hollow last year. We made a joke. My favorite lake in the world is Seminole, and I won. His favorite is Del Hollow, and he won,
Yeah, that's cool. A few comments coming in here. Let's pivot over to Bassmaster. The start of the season, you have Kissimmee, running up on Lake Fork Championship. What's your thoughts on how the year's got started, and where do you see the rest of the year going?
Man, I'm excited about how it got started. Like we all know, it was spread out just because, there was all we could get booked is all we could get booked. Today, literally, I just got booked a fan favorite of all of us, so I won't get cussed out on that one next year. I got that one booked. My mind's eye, I'm shooting for a Bassmaster Seminole-ish, Santee Cooper-ish, Susky-ish. I want something in the Midwest. I would like a Sam Rayburn-ish, and then Clear Lake Berryessa-ish kind of thing. With the championship coming back next year to the Southeast, I'd like to spread that out. And with it being in Knoxville, we know we could say, hey, let's go fish Norris, Cherokee, Douglas. But if you're traveling from Oklahoma or New Mexico, you don't want to fish those. You want to fish Chickamauga. And so that's what I'm working on there. But as far as the season goes, the Havasu was phenomenal. Getting to reintroduce the series back out there, we were super happy with 111. Like Ryan always cuts up about, I'm the worst judge of attendance ever. So I was going to be happy with 175, 160, 175 at Kissimmee, and we busted 200 and something. And so just blown away by that. But the biggest thing Bassmaster, because they see it, is everybody's response, their social media sharing, the GoPro stuff that everybody posts up. And so if you don't see those things, I have a Dropbox that's public, but the anglers aren't putting a lot of content in it. But LA, that's Laura at Bassmaster. She's begging for kayakers to throw catches in there. But just do us a favor and try to do over the shoulder as much as you can. We don't need the crotch shots of you holding a 6-pounder up. We need you catching it. We need you catching it.
A hard habit to break, brother. Hard habit to break.
I know. So put it over your shoulder. You know what I'm saying? You might impress some people, but we're not. So just put it over your shoulder.
Oh boy,
where's that link at, dude? Where do people get a hold of that Dropbox link? Is it on the Bassmaster page, or
it's in the Facebook?
Right.
And I'll try to remember to post that every couple of weeks. Yeah. But just message me and I'll get it to you.
All right.
But then after that, we got Lake Fork coming up, which everybody knew as soon as we announced where the Classic was going to be. That's where we needed to be. It's where we needed to be. And we got lucky, or not lucky. I mean, it was pretty easy. I just called them and they said, yeah, we'd love to have you. We want the elites back. And so that's kind of a lead in, and Jamie Hargrove Lambert, I got to tell you some jokes that old boy told me the other night. You're going to die. That he's one of us. You love him. I can't wait to get us all back around. But Lake Fork's going to be wild. It's going to be something else. We're going to have a good time at the Classic. Sassy Dan's birthday is before, mine is during. So we're going to find somewhere to have a good time. But the rest of the season, you know, I've already got a lot of people messaging about Del Hollow. Del Hollow is a tougher fishery just because you can do so much there. You're gonna have to research how to fish it. You just are. But after that, we know 10 killer that time of year, you're going to be able to catch them in all phases of fishing. We've already proven from the shallow water down to the deepest water, there's big largemouth and smallmouth. So you're going to be able to fish your own style to do it. July, Champlain. Champlain makes me nervous because it's a massive body of water. I don't believe in limiting water, so I'm certain I'm going to open up the Vermont side as well so that you can fish. If you can't make awards, then that's just fine. I won't like it, but I want you to be able to fish what you want to fish. And I don't want to cut half the lake off because Lambert, it's just like Kentucky Lake, dude. You can launch over here and you're going to get a third of the way across and you're going to turn around and go back. It's that freaking big. So if you know how to fish over there, I don't want you to not be able to fish. And then, you know, when we're done there, we're going to close out on Toledo Bend. And that's one I'm excited about because the way the men and women did on Caddo Bistano, it was just nuts. And with Toledo Bend being historically what it was, and us going where we're not going to have what you guys experience with unpredictable weather, I'm excited about that. It's going to be warm because it's the end of September, I believe. But it's better than 34 with 25-mile-an-hour winds, you know?
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, it was a great schedule and great season so far, man. I can't wait to start my season. I'm coming to Dale Hollow if all things line up. If I don't get doged out of a job here before Dale Hollow happens.
Golly, man.
Early retirement coming your way, Jeff.
Yeah, maybe. If they want to shove that on me, then we can talk about it. But
you probably need to start you a cricket farm so that you can catch food to eat from now on.
Yeah. I'm teaching my little dog. Yeah, I'm training my dog how to hunt rabbits and squirrels out here. My little dog that's about the size of a rabbit. See what she can do. So we'll be all right. But yeah, no fishing with Gramps. No Vera for us. Dang.
Yeah. To answer Top Shelf real quick, the launch is being built real quick. It should be up next week. And the shirts and stuff, man, I have been cussed out multiple times to try to get the merchandise launched, and I'm doing the best I can. Like I don't mind to shake the boat or whatever, but sometimes those ladies can cut their eyebrows at you over there, and you shut up. But we're trying. I'm trying to get an event-specific shirt for the championship at least, you know, because those are cool. But
yeah, you see, Big Worm said you're the best roommate.
Big Worm.
Do y'all like do shoulder massages or what? Why is he saying
yeah,
that?
we try. The best thing we ever did, Lambert, was make certain that Mark was a part of this.
Oh yeah,
he's top shelf, man. He's phenomenal.
He stuck around for a while.
Yeah. Hey, wait, and another thing, we got Teresa now too.
She's my favorite.
Hey, Teresa and Jordan are like ABC now, buddy. They are tight. You're gonna love it. Next time you get around them, that's the two polar opposites that connect. They're nuts, man. It's so fun. Yep.
Well, we're going to wrap this thing up here in a minute. Ryan, you came flying in from volleyball tournament. You gave us a little walk around tour of your new house. You got anything you want to add to this shindig here before we wrap it up?
No, I'm going to try to have it a little more professional next time. Steve-O, I'm proud of you. I'm glad you still remember how to fish. I hope I do if I ever get back out there, but keep it going, man. Obviously, Bassmaster's running the show on top of the world now, so it's all thanks to you.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all, man. I can't wait. And like we texted earlier, man, let me know. I'm free all day Friday. I'd love to come over and see the new shindig and maybe check out the porcelain.
Yeah, you can help me carry some of these boxes outside. Cool.
I'll do it, man. This he never accepts help from people, and so you got to force it on him. So
there you go. Well done, Steve-O, man. I'm proud of you, and we'll see y'all next week. Ryan, get some rest, brother.
I'm going to. Don't worry.
All right. See y'all.
Later. All right. See y'all. Thank y'all. See you.